Joining us is former Secretary of State, former CIA Director, and current Fox News contributor Mike Pompeo. I don't know what to call you because your resume stretches from here out to the middle of my front yard. I'm going to go with Secretary. Welcome, Mr. Secretary. How did we get here? And with Israel potentially facing a multi-front attack?
You know, Trey, first of all, you can call me Mike. But second, we got here because the Iranians continue to be the world's largest state sponsor of terror, and this administration, President Biden and Vice President Harris, refused to acknowledge that. You'll remember in the opening days after October 7th, they were saying there's no evidence that Iran is linked to this. When Hezbollah fired their missiles, there was no evidence that Iran was linked to this. When the Houthis fired missiles on commercial vessels, when there were rockets fired that injured Americans just the last couple weeks ago, they talk about Iraqi militias. The head of the snake sits in Tehran, and this administration has refused to take the actions that will impose risk on the leadership there in a way that would actually deter them. And so their response has been unserious. It has been naive. And Trey, you know this. When you do that, you bring more pain. You make it more difficult. And our ally Israel has been restrained by the United States, by the Harris team calling out for a ceasefire when the actors on the ground in Gaza, the Hamas terrorists, are the ones who need to just put down their weapons, stop claiming you're going to do another October 7th next week, and Israel needs to be given the capacity and the power and the political freedom to defend itself, just as we would expect our nation to do if it had been attacked in that way.
You mentioned Tehran. Israel seems willing to strike inside Iran, but the U.S. does not. You've served in almost every capacity someone can serve in other than Secretary of Defense, and you may be that one day. Why the reticence? Why is Israel willing to attack the head of the snake, as you call it, but the U.S. is so reticent?
The Biden team has been always worried about escalation and constantly speaking about the things we won't do. Those are twin evils in national security. When you say, no, we're not going to allow attacks that actually impose costs, and you tell the other side, here are the things we're not going to do, you get more of the same. You get more American hostages held. Don't forget, Trey, we've got Americans still held in Gaza today by the Iranians. They are so concerned about escalation in the same way, frankly, that they were when Vladimir Putin invaded Europe, invaded Ukraine. They're so worried about escalation that they won't do the basic steps to exert Western power. U.S., European, even the Gulf Arab states understand the need to push back against Iran. They're so concerned so afraid of using that power that somehow this will get out of control, that it gets out of control.
There are U.S. assets moving into the region, already in the region. Are those assets there for defensive purposes, offensive purposes, or to be determined?
I suspect they're there to be determined. They're certainly not there for offensive reasons. I hope they're not just there as window dressing or theater. I hope not only are we moving the hard weapons in, the military, but I hope we've messaged the Iranians about the costs that will be imposed if they behave in a way that's inconsistent with what we know the Israelis need.
Secretary Mike Pompeo, thank you for your service and all the different capacities that manifest itself to our country. You too.